9:30, we'll call the Property Management Committee to order for Wednesday, March 31st. Commissioner Coggins, please in prayer, please.
Let's bow. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we humbly approach your throne this evening, God, thanking you for this day that you've given us to live for you. Father, I pray that this day and this meeting that we'll go and that we'll live our lives according to your will and be pleasing in your sight. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Stand and face the flag. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody needs to tell the governor of Texas to look at the Pledge of Allegiance. He's talking about leaving the Union.
First on our agenda, we need to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that they be approved as mailed.
I second, Mr. Shaw.
We have a motion and a second to approve as mail. Are there any corrections, deletions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. First, we have it's a permanent slope easement and temporary construction easement for road improvements for the city of Murfreesboro. Mr. Mayor, come on.
Well, you know, they're making some substantial improvements out there at Fortress Boulevard. In fact, they're rerouting that connecting link that comes from over on, it's now intersecting with I-24. But this little improvement here is up at the intersection of Fortress and Blaze, which is near our school property. And it's a tiny little sliver. They're doing something to a little bit of curvature there on one of those corners. 1,982 square feet for quite an elongated piece of property. So it's just some sort of structural changes they're making there to enhance that turn and whatever that is. So this is sort of like what we've done from time to time on to Jarnett Lane when we had the Oakland High School, that road improvement over there. So I think it's just something that enhances that. And I recommend that we just cooperate with them and give them this little permanent slope easement and a temporary construction easement. It's only 0.05 acres in total for several hundred feet on that curvature there, which is nominal.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the easement. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next on the agenda, we have discussed the surplus auction, surplus land auction. Right.
Okay, I made a list of all the properties that we basically are calling surplus, and I'm just going to review them quickly for you and give you my thoughts on them. First of all, we still have that piece of property that sort of surrounds part of the horseshoe, you might say, at the Laverne School site that the school board declared surplus. We have been unable, any of us, to find any usable way to dispose of that property. The school doesn't need it, but it has no access, basically. And secondly, it has some very difficult and extreme elevations and slope changes. So that's just there. I'm just making you aware of it. They did declare that, but I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to do with that in a practical way.
Is it adjacent to and part of that school property?
Yes, it is. It's the very back part of it, sort of a little horseshoe piece that they're not back there. They don't need to get, but it slopes off from the surrounding property at a maybe a 45-foot degree or more slope, and it doesn't have street access either. So it's just, an acre or two or three there that they don't need, but we can't find a.
The reason that's there is because they misplaced the schools on that property. There's supposed to have been 3 schools there and they have 2 schools. That's why.
But anyway, it's there, and it's a good buffer to keep people from coming onto the school property. And I think that property is more valuable than selling it, really.
probably right. Should it be part of the property? Should it be part of the
It is still part of the school property. They're willing to cut that off and separate that, but it is part of the school property. I think it should stay part of the school property.
Makes sense.
That's piece number one. Number two, you know, the dispute that we had with respect to the property at Rockvale, that 1.6 acres we own directly across the street from the convenience center. Most of us think we should keep that property and hold it for a future use, expansion of the convenience center or some other use there possibly. So you can stop me when you want to. Number three.
How close is the emergency services from that piece of property?
The emergency services.
Ambulance.
Fire department.
Oh, the
Fire
fire department.
department.
Well, the fire department's just across the street at the convenience center, but the EMS, you'd have to go back. There's one in Rockvale, and then there's one back up as you go back toward town on the old Salem highway there. So it's within I'd say from that piece of property, you're 2 or 3 miles, and you're at the fire stations, 2 other fire stations.
That land doesn't hurt.
But all in all, it could have future implications for something.
For the convenience center or volunteer fire department or something possibly later. The only piece of property we have that's worth any real dollars is the piece down here on West Main Street. And the value of that is not as much now as it has been or will be. I think we just sort of hold that piece of property. I don't think we ought to get anxious about that. I think it will increase in value over time. The other 2 pieces of property we have, one on Buckeye Bottom Road and one on Coleman Hill Road. Buckeye Bottom is 3.5 acres and the other one is 2 acres, have no perk sites, have limited value, and the market is very, very thin for that. I don't know who would want it. There's one potential on Buckeye Bottom. There's a existing owner there that might have some use for this. But this is cedar bushes and rock for the most part. Not even much hardwood, I would say, on there.
Goat property.
I think on those 2 pieces of property, what I suggest that we do, first of all, the property needs to be surveyed and we need to mark at least the boundaries so we know where it is. You can hardly tell precisely where it is. We cannot tell precisely where it is without doing this. So I think we ought to have our engineer mark those properties, and then we can take 2 or 3 pieces of action. Number 1 is do nothing. Number 2, we could take sealed bids on that, public advertiser for sale. Or number 3, we could put up a for sale sign on them, knowing what we would accept it as a minimum bid, and they could call the mayor's office and we could handle it that way. I don't think they have enough value, those 2 pieces alone, to interest anyone in giving us any real serious or good bid like we did before from a professional real estate company. We got those that we paid the advertising and they charged us 1% of what for a commission. There won't be much commission here. It'll be pennies. So that's sort of my take on it.
Is that road, are those pieces of property easily accessible from the
Yes,
road?
sir. They have road frontage. Yes, sir.
Well, perhaps sometime down the line, would that property be appropriate for storage areas?
You mean for storage of?
County equipment of some type that we may be needing to place somewhere, or?
It might be. There's, right now, without a perk site, it would have to be just storage. We could not have a maintenance shop or something there like that.
I understand that, but if we were looking for storage of equipment or putting up a simple building there, maybe.
You could do that, just simply for that purpose, just pure storage.
Probably a smart thing to do with the economy the way it is, just maybe look at it next year and see if there's any use for it. If there's adjacent property owners that would have any interest in those things, it'd probably be the best of both worlds to get that done, but if they really don't want to pay for it.
They don't want to pay something reasonable.
What is it assessed for?
Well, it's assessed for a lot more than
It's worth.
the 2 acres is assessed for $12,400. The 3.5 acres is assessed for $47,500. It just won't happen.
surface assessment.
So I think if you would allow me, I'll go ahead and we'll get it surveyed over the next couple of months or so, whenever they can work this in. And then if you want me to put up a sign, and we can sort of agree on what number you want me to quote if they call, we'll do that. Otherwise, we can let it sit there.
Personally, I would be all right with you if you would like to research through some realty companies to get an idea of what these properties are worth, and then put up a for sale sign when we get our stakes out, when we know where it is. Go ahead and put up a for sale sign, and then if we don't get anywhere near, the offers are not anywhere near what the worth is, then we can just keep it.
Just keep, okay.
And we could leave that up to you.
Any interest, you'll bring that interest back to this committee?
Certainly could do that. Right.
Let's just do that.
Or you could authorize me to get with a few professional real estate people and sort of set a value and
Sell it.
give me the authority to sell it. We're not talking about enough money here to make a major mistake, I don't think.
That's,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we give the mayor flexibility to have that property surveyed and then put it for sale and for him to negotiate a selling price.
okay, now that's on the Coleman Hill Road.
Coleman Hill Road property and the Buckeye Bottom.
Okay, I
Road
think
property.
there's another one, we were talking earlier, but the one that has a tree service next door.
That's Buckeye Bottom.
Well, are there two Buckeye Bottoms? Because the Buckeye Bottom I know of is.
It runs a
close to
long way.
Shacklet Road.
It runs all the way from almost 231, all the way back to 840 and towards Smyrna.
Okay.
It's a long ways through there.
Coleman Hill was donated to us. I'm not sure
Both
that-
of these have been donated to us.
So the Buckeye Bottom property is next to a tree service.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
You turn off 231, you're going toward 11, and you turn off to the left. So,
And the little road sort of runs parallel to 231, then you come to Buckeye Bottom Road and turn left.
probably about 2 miles off of 231, something like that.
Did you get a second on the motion?
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to research the value of properties and to,
Well, your motion is to give the mayor flexibility to have the properties surveyed, determine a sales price, and negotiate any sale.
Second one was there.
any further discussion? And do we have on there which properties?
Buckeye Bottom and
It's 3.5 acres on
Coleman Hill.
Buckeye Bottom Road and 2 acres on Coleman Hill Road.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we have an update on the Adult Activity Center parking lot. Mr. Mayor?
Okay, work is going along great. Have you been out there, John?
No, I emailed Betty out there today, and she said that they've done some excavation out there and got some rock out there, so it's underway.
Yeah, they've taken all the vegetation off, and even today, they're moving, back part of that property is a bit damp and wet. They're taking out all that wet topsoil. They're hauling it off. I guess they finished today, but next we'll be it's gonna take a good bit of rock to bring that grade up to about where the other one is, so they're
That's fantastic. There's
So
much
they-
need of that.
So they're moving right along with that. It may be, we don't know, we're doing a little bit more work there and it's taking a little bit more rock than we thought. We may not have quite enough money in the budget, but we're gonna do it.
That's great. I know they appreciate that.
Will that help our other building
But
next door when that happens?
both of those buildings, we'll have those parking lots interconnected. And you can share that whole back area for parking space, both the adult activity and the rehab building, the Tennessee Rehab Center building that we own. So that'll
Because
all
they're
be.
taking on water when it rains. I was out there last week and they were taking on water, but I thought the way
Which one was taking on the water?
the rehab center.
The rehab center. It's a little bit lower, the rehab center is than the,
Yeah.
well, I need to know about that, but I wouldn't own that. I know their site's down just a little bit lower than the adult activity center site, just a little bit.
Well, I thought maybe with the improvements of this, it may pull the water off of both.
I don't know what it might. I'll be sure that we don't have an issue there though, but.
That's what I was thinking, since we had to go through city of Murfreesboro.
See, the property slopes back and it's all the way off of our property, both of them, so it should, if we can fix this where it drains back to the back and then, but they're moving and they had trucks and dozer and loader out there even today and they probably got through with moving that excess dirt.
Any further discussion? Have a airport property cleanup. I had this put on the agenda because, as you all know, we just opened the county court clerk building over there on our airport property that we have off of Weekly Road. And we still have, I don't know how much property is left, probably 17 acres left. We use
Yeah,
about 2.
we only use maybe no more than 2, if that much.
Yeah, so we've got somewhere around 17 acres left, and it's kind of in disrepair. I mean, we go out there and bush hog it every now and then, but that's it. And it'd be nice to get it cleaned up and try to get someone to possibly lease it, or if nothing else, if all else fails, then we would have to keep it up. But anyway, the bottom line is, I'd like for the committee to approve Public Works Department. I'm going out there and cleaning the property up, cut out some trees and sort of level the land so maybe it can be used for some park area or ball field, something like that. Or if no one wants it for that, there are other options. You know, we could advertise that, you know, it is usable property and see if we get any bites on someone wanting to use it. That's where we stand right now. It's, you know, it's kind of messy out there, overgrown, a lot of scrub trees that need to be taken out. And just asking this committee's blessings for the Public Works to clean it up.
So moved.
I'll second. What, and just for this discussion, what's the intended long-term use for that property?
Well, we have a master plan that would allow us to do 2 or 3 things, 2 more. We could move the convenience center down there. We could expand the admissions control center and put it on that site, and that would still leave at least 1/3 of it available for any other development of whatever sort we might have, or commercial development, in fact. So it's a nice piece of property. It has a lot of, now the back part of the property it may not be buildable as far as an actual commercial building because it's in the floodplain. But the front part of the property is usable, certainly the front half.
Expense, and not having an idea what the expense of this would be to do that?
Well, if the Public Works just does it, clears and pushes the vegetation, puts it back in reasonable shape, it'd be nominal expense. Whatever doing we do to make it smooth it back up, sort of put it in position to straw and seed, that would cost a little bit, but the use of the equipment, there wouldn't be any cost. It should be nominal cost. Now, we're gonna have to find a way in time when they can work it into their schedule. Their schedule's gonna get busy. They have a lot of responsibility on cleaning these easements and these right-of-ways and these drainage ditches, so that's their primary focus, but when they're not doing that, they can work on some of this.
Anthony, you want them to like pull up those sidewalks and stuff that are out there?
Some of them may need to come up. If somebody's gonna use it for like practice fields, of course, the city of Smyrna's always looking for practice fields, and hopefully they would want to go out there, but we don't know that yet. and they need all the space they could get naturally, but there's some parking out there it's not the best in the world, but it's good enough for parking for practice fields, the grass doesn't grow up in it and all. So we could leave up parking, but there's probably 2 or 3 pieces of concrete that need to come up as far as sidewalks. But I don't think that'll be a big problem.
Cost is nominal, and Public Works will work it into their schedule and not make it their priority, but to work it in when they get a chance.
We have a motion and a second to we need to approve you okaying it, or just we approve, because we don't tell Public Works what to do.
No, we don't tell them. We'll have to work with Public Works to do that, and we'll get Mr. Joe Frank as Public Works Committee to help us. But they're very cooperative.
Motion.
Request of Public Works to work into their schedule cleanup of the remaining county property in Smyrna.
Any further discussion?
Could some of that be done with the workouts?
Well,
Probably not equipment, using equipment.
maybe a little bit of it, if there's some hand raking and rock picking up, that kind of stuff, but not the use of any of their equipment, which we'll do most of this with. But some of the refinishing work, maybe yes.
I got a new chainsaw.
Yeah.
The Public Works, have they ever used the inmates for anything that?
I don't know, but Public Works probably won't be the one to put the straw and seeds, et cetera. That'll probably be Ben and his group, and he can certainly take a group down there to help with that.
Yes, okay.
No, you have.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any other business? For your information, everyone has a copy of the general capital projects report.
I had a question about that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The Justice Center has disappeared from the capital projects report.
The Justice Center has not been on there. There was a $75,000, I haven't looked at that to be sure, but there is some sort of supervisory kind of oversight fee. Is that still on there?
Project manager.
Project manager. That's the only thing that was on there for that.
Wait up. That's the juvenile detention center, correctional work center.
No, the project manager, where page is that on there? Isn't that on there? Let me see. The very first thing on there,
It totals.
well, that's under that.
Detention totals, and then the second one will be project manager.
Transfer from pause project.
Yeah, that's been there, even John, prior to me coming, that is for that purpose. That's what that was for. That was going to be the oversight. That was going to be for the PBA to use to hire a person to oversee the actual construction.
Have we exhausted all, did we transfer out anything that we had left from that line item for property acquisition then?
You mean as far as the actual buying of the property over there on Maple Street?
Yes, sir.
I don't think there was anything to transfer. I think we exceeded those numbers. I think we finished all of that. We've acquired all the property, and it was more than we had budgeted.
I'm sorry, I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Mayor, I think it was, we used to have it said Maple Street property.
Yeah.
And there was 250,000 in it, and that might be, I think.
I think we've used all of that money, and
254.
I think Lisa just closed it out.
Okay.
But we did spend more than you initially allocated
Okay, so but the project manager's gonna remain on there at 75,000?
until someone decides we want to.
Okay.
It's just sitting there. It has been funded apparently. We probably could use that somewhere else,
Yeah.
but we haven't chosen to address that.
We'll need it for the end of the fiscal year.
We'd entertain a motion to accept the capital projects report.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the general capital projects report. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We haven't had anyone to come forward as far as a vet for Paul's yet, have we?
No, sir.
Move forward with the renovation of the clinic.
We sure have not.
Okay. Any other business come before this committee? If there is none, we stand adjourned.